Well, I wanted to thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on here. We greatly appreciate it.
Disillusioned by the illusion. I gotta admit, you tricked me. I thought it was a concept title. Can you tell me what was the reason for not going with a concept album this time?
Well, you probably know because you just mentioned it, but our last four albums probably have been conceptual
Yeah.
albums because I've always enjoyed writing long stories. I consider them almost movies. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, but this time there's just a lot of stuff happening in my life, and I was interested in a lot of topics and things like that. So I was like, you know what? Rather than do the concept album this time, let me at least get out all these ideas, these
Sure.
individual ideas, and in some ways, that's a little bit harder to me than writing that long conceptual album because I have, 10 or 11 songs to stretch an idea. But these I have
Right.
to just cram in, 4 minutes. I have to cram all what I have to say into 4 minutes. But yeah, there was just so many thoughts and ideas and life things happening. And I said, you know what, let me just go back to the old school way and do a normal album. But I can tell you this, the new album is half written and we'll be back to a conceptual album again.
Wow. And I wanted to ask if you could speak to me about the fortress you have. Tell me about your studio.
Well, the studio's been probably going for 35 years, probably more than that if you count when it was in my garage.
Mm.
But yeah, I built it from the garage up, man. Since I was 15 years old, and now it's a full-fledged commercial industrial facility in business, like I said, for I mean 35 years, I guess. Because I guess if you count since I'm 15, about 35 years, we're the
Wow.
biggest we're the longest running, biggest studio in the Southern Maryland area where I live. And yeah, we're just open to the public, man. Got a lot of awesome gear, and it took me years and years to build it, and it's always in a building phase. But quite frankly, I'm really trying to get out of that business, and I actually have it on the market for sale right now, if you can believe
Wow.
that. Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be any buyers because it's a pretty expensive endeavor for somebody. But you never know.
And getting back to the album, Molten Sea was a track that really stood out for me. I wanted to ask you if you could speak on that
Yeah,
song.
which track was it?
Molten Sea.
Oh, the molten sea. Yeah,
Yes.
that's basically about where the priests, in the Bible,
Mm.
basically you had to sort of pass through or pass over this sort of cauldron of water where you actually exposed yourself. You saw yourself for what you were. So it's a way to actually, make sure that you were pure enough to pass into the next phase, the priesthood, whatever you were trying to go to or attain in your life. And that's funny because I like that track a lot too. And that was originally going to be the album cover was going to be based off of that
Wow.
song because I was just thinking, man, this could be a big bronze basin, with the surrounding and amaranths to it, or however whatever the word is I'm looking for. But yeah, and it could just be a really good album cover. But then the artist I used said, you know what, this other title is really speaking to me, and he changed it and went with that title, which is cool too. I just try to let the
Sure.
artists do a little bit of what they want to do. But yeah, thank you, man. I like that track too.
And another one that really stood out with me was Darkness Has Canopy. I wanted to ask if you could speak on that one as well.
Yeah, well, that's about like the evil forces of the world and how they disguise themselves as things that can be good and how they move in the shadows. Sometimes they're moving and you may not even realize they're moving to, worsen you or put you in a worse position in life, and it's disguised and it makes you jump at the chance or, prematurely move into something where you don't want to. So the darkness is, I like to think of Satan's or demonic,
Sure.
the canopy that they're moving through, and trying to manipulate you, and just to be aware of what's actually happening around you,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's disguised, and you just don't even realize what you're dealing with until you've already made the mistake.
Sure. And it seems to me half the time, if you want to know what's going on in the world, the best idea is not to watch the news because most of
No.
it's not right.
No. Well, if you're getting your information from any media outlet, you can bet you're being lied to and being deceived by, you know, whatever the government or whatever the powers that be want you to believe, whatever
Sure.
they want to spoon feed you. And yeah, there's nothing we watch on TV, man. We can't take, we got to take that with a grain of salt, because you know, half of what we're seeing is just complete garbage, much like what we're taught in school, much like it's all just a bunch of trash. And we've got to really try to be able to weed through what is being force fed to us.
Sure.
And you know, they're trying to manipulate us, they're trying to brainwash us, deceive us, they're trying to, you know, just mold us into what they want us to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing that scares me the most, it seems that they're driven to divide us.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that's even going to be the case if you just open up whatever social media app you're running to. You're going to see anything from, you know, homophobia to racism to
Yeah.
this to that. And you got to be smart enough to look at that and saying, you know, this is planned. Whatever I'm seeing right now is planned to make me hate whoever you want me to hate.
Right.
And we got to be smart enough to look at that and saying, man, this isn't, I mean, it could be, what we're seeing could be real, but it's a very minor, you know, it's the minority of what we're seeing. The whole world isn't like that, man. It's what they
Right.
want us to believe
Sure.
the world is. And just goes right back to, man, we're all being disillusioned by the
Sure.
illusion. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now that the album is out, I wanted to ask you, what is the next step for you?
Well, like I never stopped writing. Okay. So as I'm getting older, I'm finding myself more intensely writing. You know, there was, you know, 5 year breaks in some of the records before, but all I
Mhm.
do is really sit around and write music and record music and, you know, tour with my other band. And so the next step is, as I said, we've got, I think I got 5 or 6 songs already written for the next album. The concept is already planned. You know, next step is sending the initial 6 tracks to my drummer, maybe writing 4 or 5 more, and then just start to put that album together. My other band is named Imperial Crystalline Entombment. You may know him, not know him, I don't know, but I already have another entire album written from that,
Wow.
and my other guys wrote a couple of tracks on that too, which is really awesome because for the most part, it's always been me writing, and now we have a little bit of change happening, but it's still raw black metal, you know, it's still awesome. But yeah, so that album's already written and mostly recorded, and this album's already half written and recorded. So I'm just staying busy, man.
And speaking of your being busy with working with other bands and your own material, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, have you ever considered taking time off and hitting the road?
Well, you know, I do tour a little bit with my other band. The other band's Ice, Imperial Crystalline Entombment. We just got back from Finland a week ago. So
Oh,
we just
wow.
came back from there. We're going to Spain in November. We're actually talking to a promoter about going to India and Japan. And, you know, we're even talking to another promoter already about, you know, next summer doing maybe a 14 date stretch across the USA. So yeah, I do get out on the road a little bit. You know, we've played a lot of the major festivals. We've done many tours of South America and Mexico, and so yeah, we're out there a little bit, man. We're out there doing it now. Aurora doesn't actually do the touring and the playing out. That's more of my studio
Mm.
project. But yeah, we're out there touring with Ice for sure.
And I wanted to ask you, talked about a little bit. I wanted to ask you if you could speak on the Almark concept and the artist that is involved.
Yeah, well, that's Mike H. He's from, I don't want to mess up his last name, but he's a phenomenal artist. His company is called Visual Darkness. And I mean, he is the best. I mean, he always comes up. He just lets the lyrics speak to him, and he comes up with these beautiful covers that he does. And he's done like probably my last 5 or 6 covers. And he's, you know, pretty much I'm always going to use him as long as he's going to keep working for me. But the concept is from another track on the album. But what you're looking at is a person walking out of this threshold, out of this protected city that he's in, where he's safe. He's walking through that threshold, and he thinks he's walking to a friend or someone who's forgiven him for doing something. But if you look around it, you see serpents just all around the man. So that's the evil once again. That's the demonic presence. That's that's the forces telling him, when this guy comes through this gate, you're going to kill him, which is the knife behind his back. So as soon as he comes through that gate, he's going to be stabbed, and that's from the Bible as well. So it's just a biblical, it's text from the Bible that is just put into song form. And yeah, so he's being disillusioned by the illusion of friendship.
Sure.
So every song on there sort of some way speaking to the disillusionment of this life we live. And
Yeah.
is this life even real? Who knows, man? Are we real? We could just be AI ourselves, you know.
Right.
We just don't know. But yeah, our whole existence is just one big disillusionment, you know. If that's even a word, I don't know if it's a word.
And I wanted to ask you if you could take me back in time and tell me how your musical journey started.
Man, that goes way back, maybe to 1993 or 1994. Do you remember a band called Hallows Eve, a thrash
Yep,
metal band?
absolutely.
Yeah, good band, right? They were a
Yeah.
killer thrash metal band. So there was a guy on the first Hallows Eve record, which to me is the best Hallows Eve record because they were the most raw and intense. So there was a guy from that band. His name was Skeletor, or Scully, I called him. So he and I were in a band together called Lestragus Nosferatu, or Lestragus Nosferatus. Some people pronounce it that way. And we made a demo, and you know, it was a long running band, and we were based out of Atlanta. And we just weren't moving in the same musical direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm still friends with the guy to this day, and I just decided to split off from that and do my own thing. And I think I recorded the first demo in 1995, and then it came out in 1996. But I had to go all the way down to Tampa, Florida, to find the drummer to actually play on that. Who
Wow.
was, yeah, he was a guy named Tony Laureano, who, you know, he's considered one of the, you know, top 10 best drummers of all time. And since then, he's filled in for Megadeth. He's filled in for Demi Borgir. He played in a band called Angel Corpse. He played in Acheron. He played in God Dethroned. He played in all these amazing bands. But it's great because I got to use him first. You know what I mean? And we recorded a couple albums together. And but yeah, that was the start of it. So it was sort of based in Atlanta, and then moved to Tampa, and then back to Maryland. It was a long little process.
Florida back in that time was so strong in the metal community because you
It,
had Death, you had Obituary, so many great bands. Cannibal Corpse was all on the
everybody.
rise at that time. And
Everybody.
yeah,
Well, that was the death metal capital of the world.
yeah,
You know, not just United. You know, you could say Sweden had the black metal, and you could say they had the Gothenburg sound, and they had, you know, but one thing's for sure, America and Tampa was the epitome of death metal at one
absolutely.
time. And that's why I went there, quite frankly, because that's where all the musicians were. And I couldn't find any musicians in Atlanta, you know, I don't want to say worthy, but any musicians good enough to do what I needed to get done.
Right.
But, you know, there was a slew of them down in Tampa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I'll tell you what, just a quick story for you that's awesome. We were in the place that we were rehearsing. I mean, I think you had Cannibal Corpse there. You had Brutality there. I think Morbid Angel was there for a while. I mean, can you imagine like just going to a rehearsal facility and seeing all these great iconic bands
Oh,
just
yeah.
every day? Monstrosity was there.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody was there, man.
And along the journey that you've taken, what do you feel has been the best advice that has been given to you along the way?
Man, I just say you really gotta, number one, practice, okay? Because I mean, for me, I'm not naturally gifted, so I practice every day. I write every day. I take it serious, you know, it's not a hobby. And if you're gonna take it serious and you're gonna compete with all these other major bands, you gotta be pretty good at what you do. And I'm not saying from a technical standpoint per se, but even from a songwriting place,
Sure.
you gotta hone your skills, and you gotta get better and better and better. Don't make crappy sounding recordings. You know, I got a lot of advice. Don't make home crappy sounding recordings, because there's too many good bands out there making too many good recordings to compete with.
Sure.
And most importantly, be persistent. You know, just persistence. Keep doing what you're doing, but do it from the heart. Don't
Right.
Don't make music that you think people wants to hear, that's going to get you signed or all this stuff. If you're not doing it from the heart, you might as well just stop right now, you know?
Sure. And I know that we were both influenced in our early years with Kiss. I wanted that, and that was a band that was really persistent. The first one came out, it basically flopped. They said, "Hey, a couple months later, here's another one for you," and they kept dishing, throwing them out till someone
That's right.
recognized it.
And then now they're the biggest band to ever exist. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, early Kiss is some of the best stuff there is. And I'll be honest with you, I even like some of the later Kiss. I'm not ashamed to say it,
Right.
but but early Kiss obviously is life-changing music. And I always, with my black metal band, I always tell the guys in my band as a joke, but not really a joke. I want to be the black metal Kiss. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I want to have these props and the stage show and all these things, and we're growing as a band, but Kiss is always like that band that you want to shoot to be.
sure.
Not that we'll ever be them or anyone will ever be them, but it's always good to have goals.
I was lucky to be old enough to go see him in '79 before everything fell apart. And it was, I go to shows still today, and I'm like, wow, man, '79, they were
Yeah.
doing the same shit way back then.
Yep, yep. They were front runners, man. They were innovators. They didn't care. Even in their club days when they were getting shut down and laughed at, they didn't care, man. They just kept doing and they got better and better,
Yeah,
persistence, like you said, and they refined what they did, and they became this well-oiled machine that now has risen, like you said, globally to one of the biggest bands
sure.
that ever exist. And yeah, they'll always be a big influence to me. I still listen to them a lot to this day, man.
And I wanted to ask you as well, you talked about touring with your other band. When you're with other people, what is your favorite road story to talk about?
Well, a lot of my early road stories when I was a kid get a little crazy, but I can't say that I have a exact moment, but let's just say the new era of touring.
Mm,
Um, you know, we played Bogota, Colombia, and if you've never played down there, man, like those guys are crazy. They just will, I mean, they give you so much energy and so much intensity back, and it just makes you feel so good. We were lucky enough to play twice in Colombia, but in Bogota, man, like that's my favorite show that I've ever played. And
mm,
keep in mind, man, we played Hellfest, we played
you're right.
Maryland Death Fest, we played giant festivals. We just got back from Steel Fest, and those are great shows, man. But to me, the best road stories are when you can say you really loved that audience. There's a lot of crazy road stories, obviously, but that's the one that I just think, man, I wish every show could be like that.
And also, I wanted to ask you, as an artist, you've been doing this for a long time. I wanted to ask you, what is your vision ahead, and how do you want to be remembered as an artist?
I definitely don't want to be remembered by someone that changed for other people. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
I want to be remembered as that guy that stuck to his guns, that played from the heart, that was, that I did what I wanted to do.
mm,
I don't want people to look back and say, "Man, remember when he had that crazy era that he did all
sure.
this crazy?"
Yeah.
Like, I listen to Creator a lot, and I don't know what the hell they were thinking in their renewal era. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I want to be just steady and remembered as that guy that put out that intense, insane music that never let up. I just want that. I just want people to think
Right.
about that.
And we talked about the new one that you're working on for the band. I wanted to ask you, when it's complete, will this have you considered ever because I love your previous concept albums, and I always thought, man, this would be so great if it was put to like an entire video form. Have you ever considered doing that?
It's funny because on the World Shapers record, I don't know if you listened to that one, but the World Shapers record is the one where that's where I see the visual. And of course, it's always a thought, but you have to think, okay, how much is this going to cost? where's the budget going to come from? What direction are you going to use? What editor are you going to use? What director you're going to use? And you turn around and all of a sudden you're looking at 40 or $50,000 to get it
Yeah.
done. So as much as I would love to do that, I don't see me dropping 40 grand on it,
Right.
if I ever came into some money or something, you never know. I do put a lot of my money into my art because I don't, some people go play golf. Some people watch football games and go to the venue. Some people, drive race cars, but I put my money into my own passions instead of somebody else's
Sure.
passions. So yeah, I mean, if I ever got that kind of money, of course, I'd love to see it as a whole visual concept mini movie. That would be insane, man.
And lastly, I wanted to ask you if you could give a message to your fans, what message would you give them?
Man, read the lyrics. Like those lyrics to me mean everything. I spend endless hours writing the lyrics. I feel like more so than 99% of the bands out there. And all of the lyrics have deep meaning to them. They're not just words thrown down on paper. You know what I mean? They're really to be looked at and interpreted. And, you may get a different interpretation than someone else, but those lyrics are so important to me, and each album I seem to spend longer and longer and longer on them. But yeah, for God's sakes, just read the lyrics and understand the messages I'm trying to
Sure.
to get across. And also, man, just get in touch with us. We're not a giant major band. I love to hear from people. I love to have conversations. I love to talk to the fans, to have it back and forth. I just talked to an editor today at Metal Rules, and it just started off with a little review he did, and it turned into a 2-hour text conversation just
Yeah.
because we're just talking metal. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah,
Sure.
I have like endless email chains with some of the fans out there, man. I enjoy talking to them. So yeah, get in touch and read those lyrics.
And that's one of the things I enjoy about what I do is the friendship I have with bands that we sit and talk for hours and hours. I seen this show, I seen that show, and what it was like and the
Right.
experience. You know,
Yeah,
it's
man.
always
Well,
a great time.
the metal community, I feel like it's a rather small community compared to the global scale of things.
Sure.
Even though we're millions strong worldwide, but it's still a very small sect of the population. So we have things that we can relate to that we can't relate to the outside world with, and that's why I think
Right.
we connect so well with other metal fans. Whether it's death metal or black metal or old Kiss or whatever it is.
Right.
Metal is metal, and of course we have our preferences, but man, we really, metal fans connect a little bit deeper than just normal people talking about, we share something special, which is
Sure.
awesome.
It's a passion for us. You
That's right,
know,
man.
people will ask me, they'll be like, "Well, how much you make doing your podcast?" I'm like, "I don't make nothing doing it.
Yeah,
This is what I love to do."
that's right, man.
You know,
If I thought about like making money for this music that I create, like it starts to just weird you out. I mean, you're not you
right?
don't you're
Sure.
not doing it for the like who like I don't know anybody that's like in this genre that I'm doing that's doing it for money. I mean, maybe if you're Demi Borgir or Cradle of Filth or
Right.
something like that, you have an agenda to scrape that money. But when you're on my level, man, we just do it from the heart and because we
Sure.
want to. And if we get a little check here and there, of course that's wonderful, but who cares? Who
Right.
cares? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to thank you personally for creating an album I enjoyed from top to bottom. And you
Thank
did
you.
trick me because when I got to about track 3 or 4, I'm like, man, this isn't going together like I'm thinking it's going to. So you really
Yeah,
did catch me on it.
it's funny. The record label puts like a little how they send out the album or whatever, and it specifically says taking a break from the concepts because people just associate us with conceptual albums,
Sure.
and it's almost like that's just what we do now. And yeah, so you're not the first person to say, "Hey, no concept this time."
Right. Well, thank you again for taking time to speak with me. I look forward to many more interviews with you, my
Thank
friend.
you, man. Well, I appreciate you doing it too, because like I said, we're not some giant band and we appreciate any exposure like this. So, we greatly thank you for taking the time to just do any sort of interview with us, man. We greatly appreciate that.
It's my pleasure, man. Total pleasure.
All right, man.
You
Thank you
have a
so
great
much.
rest of your night, man.
You too, brother. Appreciate it.
Cheers.